back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's for Lowriders, and we're getting back into getting something done in the garage. Normally I complain, like I say every time, about some O.C.D. and some A.D.D. and some getting straight away and doing a bunch of random things that don't include getting this done. This week we're all focused on trying to get something done to get this thing running, and I stayed on track, but I had a couple detours that I had to make in order to further this progress, and I will explain all of that. If you've never been here before, there is 50 some odd videos of this thing. They've all been numbered. This one's probably supposed to be technically number 52, but we're at like 48 now. Everything that you can do to a vehicle has been done in some form and fashion of this. Thrilling from scratch, stainless steel exhaust from scratch, airbags, body drop, paint and body work, canvas, top, interior work. The interior went back in, which is looking awesome. So there is a lot of things going on. I'm in the final stages of buttoning up the electrical and the brakes and all of the things that I really don't want to do. I will explain all of this. There's some stuff outside we need to talk about. Kind of like last week, this video, we're going to split it up. I ran into some problems and I had to order some parts. So things aren't 100% yet to where this thing's just going to fire up. So we need to, which it happens with projects, but that's why we have other projects to occupy our time and try and get something done to further them. And I have a problem, and I'm a hoarder, and I just have too many projects going on in general. But there's a couple things that happened this week that go along with this truck. Yesterday, or last night, at like midnight, I got the clutch master cylinder line made underneath the engine and hooked up to the actual clutch slave cylinder. This is a brand new clutch master cylinder. It's in there, it's installed, the line is in there, it's out of the way, it looks pretty good. I went to bleed everything. I was in here last night by myself just pressing the pedal with my hand, and this crush washer leaks. That is brand new. This whole assembly is brand new. So rather than trying to fix something that I paid money for and I don't want to get into that, I ordered another one and I'm just going to return this one. The only thing that sucks, it's going to be here probably about the time that this video is uploaded. So there's another thing. On top of that, I bought 2 packs of these fittings. That way they all match and they look good and everything is symmetrical and fancy-ish looking for some in the garage work. I can't find the other bag of fittings. The bags come with 10, and there's about 10 fittings if you added all of the things in the front end and the ones that I've done in the rear, but I can't find the final fitting to do the single line that goes to the back of the truck. I also have the little splitter thing, and as you can see, I've been tearing into my garage yet again looking for these things and I can't find them, so I just ordered more off Amazon. It kind of sucks, but it is what it is. So we're going to bounce back and forth. Last week we got the van pulled around to the front yard. We power washed all of the grime and gunk off of it. And I wanted to actually take this time to say thanks for everybody that voted, and the van has won the vote. I guess that's how you would say it. Like I had said last week, the van and the Caprice have been going back and forth. One would be a percent higher, the other would be a couple percent higher. Out of 356 people that have voted, the van is up by 1% over top of the Caprice, and I am closing the votes down. I said I would wait 30 days, and 30 days would be like Tuesday, which is, the votes haven't moved in like 3 days. So that's what we're going with. The van is the next project, and I bought some parts for the van, and I've been doing some brainstorming for the van, and there's a lot of stuff that I have to explain, but I'm going to try and keep it brief. So we're waiting on parts for this. Hopefully they'll be here by the end of the video, and this will be a back and forth thing so we can get some Mazda stuff done, because everything that I'm waiting on needs to be finished before the truck can be pulled out of the garage, because I don't want to go back and forth. tonight, once it gets too dark to mess with the van, I'm going to come back in here and we're going to do some electrical, which I did some other stuff and I will explain later when we get back in here. But this week, my buddy James and my buddy Mike and I went to Maryland. Took about an hour trip, and last week I had said I was trying to find a roundabout way in order to find some kind of way to store the Mazda while I did the body work for the front fenders, the hood, the doors, all of the other things, and then eventually the bed. I needed somewhere to put the Mazda. In the meantime, I don't have any way to store it outside to where the wildlife isn't going to ruin it by getting in there and potentially messing up the seats. There's a ridiculous amount of raccoons. As you can see, my house backs up to woods and wildlife. So this week we went, which I have 3 of them now. We went to the same guy that I purchased my sea containers from, the red one and the blue one, and picked up a gray one. So I have plenty of temporary storage for the Mazda project. With that being said, I gotta get some stuff done, and I gotta get that thing out of the garage. I hope that I can get it started, the air management working, and all of the things to where I can drive it into the container. That would be nice. Not positive that that's gonna happen, but that's the plan. So we're gonna bounce back and forth. We're gonna start getting into the van. I need to clean the van out. As y'all saw last week, it's completely full of crap that I'm going to pawn off on my friends. A couple people commented and said that they would be interested in some random stuff that's in here. So we're going to start by shuffling and playing some musical chords. I'm going to back my truck up to it and start chucking stuff in there so I can bring it to the dump or friends' houses. And that's the plan. We're going to take all that stuff out, tear up the carpet, take out and clean the interior completely out, and get this project going because, again, it won the vote, and this is what y'all asked to see. So for those of you that haven't been here and seen all of these things, we had a vote going. We were able to pick between all of my random junk and projects for what's going to go into the garage after the Mazda is finished. Since there's downtime with the Mazda right now, and I really don't have anything else to do on the Mazda until parts show up, and we have that downtime, we're going to chip away at the things that we can do that don't require the van to be in the garage. We might actually even start taking a grinder to this thing and chopping it up. We need to get the whole floor out of the inside and start planning this out, which I did come up with something that I wanted to show y'all for that. So let's start by moving some junk around and start cleaning this thing out, and as we're going I'll explain some more. So if you've never been here before, please subscribe, do all the normal YouTube-y things, the likes and the comments and everything. Let me know what you think, and we'll just get into it so I don't ramble for 7 minutes like I did last week. Well, I just went back and looked at that footage. I didn't ramble for 7 minutes, I rambled for 8.5 minutes. So today James and I actually got up kind of early-ish. We went to Pick Apart, which they don't open until like 8:30, so we were a little late on that. I got up because Pick Apart said that they had 4 Mazdas in the yard in my year range or whatever. We walked the whole yard. They did not have the Mazdas. Got another tool cart for the garage. Really cheap. So we walked the entire yard while it was 90 degrees or whatever it is today. Felt like it was 110, and we didn't find anything. I was really hoping I could find the kick panels and at least something else of use in order to get the interior finished on that thing, but it didn't happen. Don't pay attention to my headliner. I refinished my headliner and it looked really good for like 2 years, and then one hot summer decided to just not be good anymore. I don't know what the hell happened, but took apart was a bust. I forgot to bring a tape measure with me because I wanted to measure front suspensions, and I didn't do that. So by the time we ate, came back here, and the 80, 90 degrees got a hold of us, and the humidity. Yeah, I just decided to wait for the sun to go down, and now we're out here. Need to get all this paneling out of here and figure out what to do with all this junk. And there is a lot of it. So we're gonna start chucking stuff. Well, it's Sunday, and just like every other Sunday, we're pretty much using that day to get as much done as possible on the weekends. But yesterday was pretty good. Of course, for whatever reason, my GoPro is hating me lately, and it keeps shutting itself off or recording just blank white screens. I'm gonna probably have to get a new one or send this one in and get it fixed or something. But I recorded yesterday cleaning this thing out, and it's not really exciting anyway. But I'm actually in the van. There's not very much stuff in the van. I had to get all this random wood off of here and house insulation and house carpet and get this thing cleaned up and hope that there's not a ton of rust underneath all of this stuff from all of the wildlife pooping and peeing on it and apparently living in here and having buffets. But that's the plan. We're going to get this thing cleaned out. I'm going to get the dog box off. I'm going to see how much I'm going to potentially need to raise the engine. A lot of the guys I see that do these vans will pancake the front like I was talking about last time, like I did on C10s throughout the years. But a lot of those vans that have pancake front ends, they have a little bit of a squat and they don't lay pinch. It seems like the only way to get it to lay pinch is just cut it off and put something else on there. I have some ideas for that. I have some ideas for the rear suspension. I actually bought some stuff for the rear suspension that I need to show y'all. But we're going to start by getting all of these. There's a ton of different types of self-tappers and screws and everything. Get all these things out, roll this carpet up, get this cleaned out, and start laying some stuff out. Hopefully we can maybe drill up some spot welds and cut this floor so we can actually feel like we got something done besides just cleaning. I had a bunch of people that I messaged yesterday to come get all that junk, so hopefully they show up today, because if not, it's going to the dump. I had one guy show up that I pawned some stuff off on him, and I'm rambling, so we're just going to get to work. A little hat there. Y'all will get to experience my full lawn mowing get up today. So there is probably 200-foot rolls of speaker wire in this thing I got to yank out of here. I got all the rest of the crap out and just kind of tossed it. There's like literally 6 different types of fasteners in here. I'll go through here and see how hard it is to get this carpet up. And how many, oh man, there's so many screws. What is this? Why is there a whole pocket of just random screws? That's super weird. And whatever that is. Yeah, that's what we're doing. I didn't expect that. Whatever this is, trash bags or something. Yeah, I figured there'd be some rust in there. And of course it's wet. Yep. It's a good thing most of that needs to get cut out anyway. Got a little rust. It's not as bad as I thought it would be with the moisture and stuff that was in here. This is probably the worst of it. Those couple spots, but we're right in line with the drive shaft anyway. And I have a feeling that some of this is going to have to get cut up. Maybe. There's a lot of room under the van, but I'm not sure exactly how much we have to work with. So I'm thinking, which I have to show you the rear end that I purchased, but I'm thinking for this to work, we're just going to make big cuts and fill it back in later. We can do sheet metal work with this. That's one thing with this one versus the Mazda that I didn't really discuss. I don't care if this looks factory. The Mazda's taking forever because there's this whole thing where I was like stuck on the fact that I wanted the gas tank to be in the factory location, which caused a ton of work, and then that snowballed into me wanting to make the truck look stock when it was done just on the ground. This one, I don't care. We're just going for it. We can do bead rolled panels. We can write whatever we want in the sheet metal and have it look however it has to turn out for the truck to be on the ground, or van, whatever. So we're just cutting and filling it back in, which is significantly faster than trying to make everything look factory when it's done. Significant. So I'm going to go get a grinder, and I think I'm going to get my resurfacing tool and start cleaning some of this up. It's harder to clean sheet metal once it's been cut rather than cleaning sheet metal now, like where I know I'll stop. That way it's not flimsy and bouncing around. But yeah, I feel confident in the structure of this. I'm pretty sure there's spot welds somewhere in here that I just can't see yet, holding the floor to the unibody. So if I was to take the spot welds out, I should be able to separate the floor from that. And it's not a unibody like a Honda or anything newer, basically, to where it's just extremely flimsy stuff. It is flimsy because it's all sheet metal, but it looks like a full frame that's welded to the body in this. It looks like an actual truck frame that just doesn't have a top. The floor is the top, so I don't think the van's going to get out of whack and twisted or whatever. And if it does, we'll just fix it later. Doesn't really matter. As long as the door's shut and the van's not tweaked, we'll be alright. We'll figure it out. So the engine and trans are pretty much touching the body here. It kind of sucks because the brake lines ran this direction directly above the transmission. I don't know if you can, yeah, you can clearly tell. The transmission pan hangs down below the body, probably a couple inches or so. Sorry if the wind is crazy out here. So the frame, it's pretty beefy. Like, it's a good 5-6 inches tall or so. But as you can see here, we have these cross braces every so often to tie the body in. All that stuff's going to have to come out because the drive shaft is going to have to be there. The frame rails run down, and there's a curve on either side of the frame rail, and that is what the spot welds are attached to, is that lip right there. So I'm kind of thinking if I cut just on the outside of that lip when we're in the body, it'll be relatively strong. So I think what I'm going to have to do is cut the sheet metal, and then I'm going to have to get my little air saw and the air line out here and take out probably a couple hundred spot welds. And this thing's going to have to get cut up a lot because that trans needs to go up at least 3 or 4 inches just so the oil pan is up off the ground, and the cross member and all of that stuff just needs to go. But I think we're still surprising to me that this thing's in such good shape for a van in my area. These vans, like, if we go on Marketplace, they're rough. Every one of them's rotted out, unless it's a $15,000 van or something that is garage kept. An affordable version, that's what we'll say, is not in this good of a shape right now. Sorry if my mic picks up my mini split from the garage. Luckily, I parked the van here and I'm getting a nice little cross breeze from it, because it is like 90 degrees today. You can see them here. There's spot welds every 2 inches or so. Catch the light just right. You can see this side, so that means that frame rail is right here. So what I think I'm going to do is cut just along this line on both sides, and then I have to find where those cross members are, which you can't really, there's a spot weld there, so there's probably a cross member here. I have to go through and actually remove those, because to separate it, if you don't cut those out, it's a pain in the butt. Also, before I forget, Adrian, I don't know if you watch these videos, but what were you doing, bro? What is this? Why is there a screw inside of your little tiny amp power wire here? That's like a fire waiting to happen, bro. It's crazy. As I was laying under here thinking about it, I believe the gas tank needs to be removed before I go any further, because the gas tank needs to be thrown away or given away to somebody that might need it. Just, I don't know who would ever need a rusty old gas tank for a van, but I can actually smell fuel, and I don't know where it's coming from. So I'm going to remove the main source of said fuel, just so we don't start any forest fires over here. These bolts are probably going to break. Oh wow, that's kind of impressive, actually. I need to disconnect the filler neck though. I really expected that to be like a struggle of some sort. That filler neck hose is completely rotted. I don't think there's any saving that. It looks really rough. I need to get my pliers to get the what's left of the tailpipe off. Probably gonna end up cutting that hose. There might be a little bit more fuel in there than I thought it was. And that stuff smells terrible. I can the gas tank isn't even open, and I can smell the fuel. Whoo wee! Lordy Lord, that smells so bad. I think there's a lot in there. Probably gonna end up running a fuel cell. And it's gonna be carbureted, so we do not need these high pressure lines anymore either. So I don't feel bad about cutting this whole thing out. That's a return. That's low pressure, but those lines are rough. This is high pressure. Oh, and there's fuel in there. That's nice. Figure that would have drained back to tank after sitting for 8 years. And sending unit. Who cares? Yeah, there's a lot in there. whole lot. Wow, that probably would have been good to know 8 years ago. I probably could have just siphoned it out. Almost. So, as a little safety and an idea, if you ever have to do this and there's fuel in these lines still and you don't have everything completely dry, and you're like me and you're paranoid about catching things on fire, you can see how this one is wet and this one's wet. I forgot to carry my air choke out here, but I have this one that I was filling up the tires with. So all you gotta do, this is the inlet, so this is the one that actually feeds the engine. Then you have a return and you have an evap canister or a evaporator, whatever you want to call this. All it does is just vent to the atmosphere up front to usually like a plastic jar of some sort. So all I did was blow air into this guy, and you can see right here there's fuel coming out of there. So that ensures that there's nothing trapped inside of them lines. If you want, you can blow air back through all of them when you're done, but it's not really necessary because they're all technically connected to this guy in some form or fashion. The evap usually has a fitting on top of the canister in the front, so if you want to be extra safe, you can blow through each one. But it really doesn't make a difference. If you're tackling anything like this, even if it's a truck, be mindful of where the fuel lines go. As you can see, this line here, this cable wasn't in the way, actually rests on the bottom of the floor. So if I had left the gas tank in here and then just went all out and started hacking away at everything, I would have cut into that fuel line with fuel in here with a gas tank completely. Even though it's old gas, it's still flammable. It's extremely flammable. It's got to be really, really old to not be flammable. I bagged a friend of mine's 58 Apache. I'll add a picture of it on the screen, which he never finishes anything, but I bagged it regardless. I welded in a fuel sending unit out of like a 0304 Chevrolet pickup truck into a new replacement 58 Apache gas tank. But before I did that, I cut the old gas tank just out of like mock-up and curiosity to see how it's made on the inside. The fuel that was in that truck was from the early 90s, and this was probably like 08, 09, maybe, yeah, somewhere around there. And that fuel was still flammable. It's still ignited and still burned inside of that old tank, even though it looked like varnish and it was every color of the rainbow that you could imagine. Still flammable. So don't think that just because it's old it's not going to affect anything and potentially hurt you. This is the Bauer resurfacing tool thing from Harbor Freight. It works awesome. Y'all seen me use it before. I've used it on a lot of different random projects. Out of the wheels that it comes with, this is the only wheel that I like. I don't like any of the other colors. Did a little test pass to see how it does on rust, and so far it's awesome. So what I'm going to do, which is a terrible job, glasses, mask, it's like if you don't point out the fact that you're wearing them, people usually comment and tell you to put them on. Even though you have them on, they just can't see your face. It's really weird. So I'm going to go ahead and do all this before I take a break for lunch, because this is a messy process, and I don't want to, yeah, we're just going to do this. The thing works really well. It's just having a hard time doing these in-between portions. I have these, which are made out of the same material as what comes on this, but that goes on a grinder. You can get these off Amazon really cheap. I've tried the expensive versions, and I've used a bunch of these. I really don't see enough of a difference to buy the expensive version of this. The Amazon ones seem to work fine and last just as long as the expensive ones. Little final results on the grinding. Still got a little bit more to do to get the rest of the rust up, but it's coming out for the most part. All that you're seeing now is actual pits, but it doesn't look terrible. Now the sun is behind the van. I'm gonna add a terrible screenshot. I guessed it in the beginning of the video. Normal Amazon activities. My package is now delayed until 28th, so I'm not gonna get the clutch master cylinder. Happens every time. It's usually only when you are like really, really banking on something showing up is when you don't get it. But either I'm gonna get my tent out, maybe we'll do a little bit on the Mazda and wait for that sun to kick around the back of the building. Not sure. Actually, one thing I do need to show y'all before I forget about it again. This is my idea. This is going to be the rear suspension for the van. This is a complete K-frame minus the struts out of a early 90s Nissan 240SX. So this would be an S13 rear. It's an open diff right now, and it's got tiny axles and it's a 4-lug, but everything about this subframe can be replaced. I did a lot of research, well, a lot of Googling, and a lot of back and forth and looking at measurements and trying to figure this out to see exactly which K-frame. I knew I wanted to do independent rear. I just didn't know which manufacturer I wanted to go with. I was thinking about Mustang. A lot of the Mustangs have aluminum control arms. A lot of the Mustangs are very wide because the newer ones run almost flat-faced wheel to where it would actually be as wide, if not wider, than the rear that's already in the van. This rear is significantly narrower than the rear end that's in the van. It's basically going to be as if we're narrowing the rear, let's just say like 6 inches almost. This is 5 feet from mounting surface of where the wheel goes to mounting surface so the wheel goes on the other side. The rear that's in the van, now that I can actually get a tape measure under it today, is 5 feet from backing plate to backing plate. So however thick that drum is, that's how much we're narrowing the rear, which I think will work, because if I was looking at pictures of vans turned into lowriders with spokes on them and running a 7-inch regular spoke wheel, it seems like the tire is almost always touching the rear fender when it's laid out. I think the way that this is going to work out is the tire's going to be in maybe an inch or two, to where when there's going to be camber involved now, which will help also, but normal circumstances, if I was to put a spoke wheel on this rear end, it's 7 inches from that mounting surface out, which puts the tire into contact with here. I'm narrowing it about 3 inches, so I should be just inside of this body line, and it should hopefully work out. I was reading online, if I upgrade it to a, don't quote me on this because I'm not positive, Q45 spindle or hub, whatever, with a Q45 center section. I don't want to use one of those rear ends because the K-frames on those are aluminum. But if I change all that stuff over, it actually makes the rear end a little bit wider. So that's another possibility. The center section will get changed. The axles are going to get changed to beefier stuff later on down the road. But that is a complete assembly to where I can mount it in the van. And my idea behind all that, sorry there's so much talking again in this video, but there's a lot to explain. My idea was, with that K-frame mounted in here, I don't have bars going towards the front. So technically, I should be able to keep everything in this footprint of the wheel wells minus the drive shaft. If I was to do a 3-link like we did on the truck or a 4-link, pump would have to be higher and longer because of the bar length and because of the room that you need to make all of that fit with the van being body dropped. If I wasn't body dropping and I just wanted it to be really low, I don't think it'd be as big of a deal, but that's the idea. I actually got something in the mail yesterday or the day before that for this also that I'll show y'all real quick. So this goes along with that rear end. I got the rear end on Monday, Tuesday, and I ordered this and got this the next day, surprisingly. Of course, the things that you don't need immediately show up right away. But since that is an S13 rear end, S13s are 4-lug. This is to convert it to S14 stuff and make it 5-lug. So hopefully all of that fits well. I didn't buy the rear end with brakes, so I need to get rotors and calipers, but at least this will let me to bolt a hub when the time comes to basically bolt the wheels on it that I'm going to run. This is actually a conversion kit made for that rear end. It's a cheapy one. I didn't go all out and buy the hundreds and hundreds of dollar version. This is kind of like the bare bones, and hopefully it's okay at decent reviews. Well, since the van is officially going to be the next project, I'll go ahead and show the wheels that I have that will end up on the van. I am okay. Y'all can talk about it in the comments. I'm okay with ordering Supremes or something, but I want to keep it like lowrider. I don't want to do. I'm okay with like a 15-inch baby billet or something of that nature. I think that would be cool. I don't want to run a large wheel on the van. So let me know if we should do a poll and vote for another set of Supremes or some baby billets or anything of that nature. I want it to be 90s or older era stuff, but I think this is a pretty good option. I have a brand new set. This is actually a 6-inch. I have 2 6s and 4 7-inch. Brand new Daytons. Actual stamped Daytons. Full set of them. I think that this should where the van should go. I also have different options for hydraulics. I have a 4-pump setup of Pro hoppers from the 90s. Complete set that I could run. The van's not gonna 3-wheel. It's not going to do anything like crazy lowrider wise. It's just gonna go up and down because of the body drop. And I think that I'd probably end up breaking something with it being body dropped if it did all of those things, because of the front suspension options that I have. I don't think that they can handle it very well. But I have that 4-pump setup from Pro Hopper. They're old school stuff. I haven't made Pro Hoppers in forever. But I have that complete set. And then I also have a brand new set of CCE pumps. I can do 2 pumps, I can do 3 pumps, I can do 4 pumps. It really doesn't matter. That part I don't care. I can do a single pump with a manifold. I have that too. I have an old, like, I say old, but 10-year-old hydraulics manifold to where you can run a single pump and it actually distributes to all 4 wheels. I have a lot of options when it comes to hydraulics, but I think with the independent rear, and it'll have probably Mustang 2. I still haven't figured that out yet. I have to take some measurements to figure that out exactly. I also have another idea, but I just feel like I've been rambling way too much lately. There's options. We can talk about it. Let me know in the comments, and we can we can start some polls up again and do some voting. Or if I get the idea that everybody in the vote or in the comments is on the same page, we'll just go with that. Either way. So the other night I did record making this. I'll add that in. It's pretty quick. What I didn't record is that little brass thing you see right there is the same as the brass thing down here where the power comes through the firewall. I put another bulkhead in here. That way I can run the ground from the battery to the inside and everything splits off of that. But that ground can also be tied into the engine. The engine also has a ground to frame. It'll have a ground directly to the battery. So everything as far as grounds will be tied into each other. You can see here that is the ground and directly below that is the power. So I need to make a cable coming from the power to the power distribution, and then I need to start tying in to all of that. I skimmed over it last week, but I didn't think I actually showed it. I put a firewall grommet into the firewall. This is actually out of a 08 F250. I feel like I might have said this already, but there is now a grommeted entrance or exit into the firewall, and the engine is plugged back into the truck. I need to wire this power to one of those guys. I need to make that cable and do just some small stuff. We still got to make progress on the truck. I don't want to take away from the truck, but we're also being held back on things for the truck because of shipping. The fittings still aren't here, and the clutch master's not here, so those are pretty important things to get this thing to where it'll go in gear and it'll stop. But we can at least work on some electrical while we wait for the sun to dart around to the back of the garage. Well, A.D.D. again. I really don't feel like messing with the wiring. I feel like that's an off-camera, extremely boring thing that I've shown y'all a dozen times now. So, I have the trim. James, I stole one of the pieces off the parts truck, just so you know. I have all of the trim that came off of this truck originally. I had to steal one of the corners off of the parts truck. This stuff is pretty scratched up. You can see where it's been hit a couple times with like a DA sander over the years, and there's a couple gouges and stuff in it. I finally got the little clips off of eBay. They finally showed up. It took forever. There's a part number if you need it. So I think we're about ready to put this back on. You can see where this was actually glued on to the window at one point also. So if this tiny rubber stuff falls off of this at all, I have no idea how to put it back on. I don't think you can, and I don't think you can buy this stuff at all anymore. But with it being scratched up, and this being a base model, I'm pretty sure that some of these came black. The parts truck, I don't think the parts truck's ever been taken apart, and the parts truck had black ones on it. And they had like flaky black paint on them. They could have been painted at some point, but I'm not sure. These are scratched up. The truck has no polished stuff on it. No, unless it's under the hood. Nothing on the outside is chrome or polished or shiny like this. So with the scratches, what I'm trying to get at here is I think I'm going to dull these out and leave them as like a brushed stainless steel finish. I think that would look kind of nice. So I'm going to do a little test spot on one of these. We'll see what it looks like, and then probably end up doing them all this way. This is just a gray Scotch-Brite pad. It's not really aggressive. So if this doesn't work, these can still be polished. If I end up not liking it, I can always reverse this. And it's not that big of a deal, because gray Scotch-Brite would probably be what I would clean this with before I polished them anyway. But I can tell already I'm kind of liking this. So it's still shiny, of course. It still has a reflection. I might have to go to a red Scotch-Brite, but you can kind of see there what I'm getting at. How it's just dulled out some. It's not in your face, like almost like chrome. I'm gonna grab a red Scotch-Brite. Still, I think I'm gonna like this, so I'm not afraid to scratch it up some more. Luckily, some of these things are still intact. So the little, I'm learning as I go. Never done this before. The little white ones, I guess they just suspend it. They're not really, they don't really hold it in place, I don't think. It seems like they're just spacers to stop it from sagging, maybe? I know that I'm missing the majority of my clips, so I don't know where these are supposed to go. I do have, you need there's little tabs. I'll show you those. Little tabs every so often. That style clip actually snaps down onto, and this clips into the trim. It's a matter of trying to get the clips in the general area where they're supposed to be. That way, when you go to line all this up, they actually have something to snap into. It's definitely one of those things I feel like I'm going to break it all as I'm doing it. And pretty much all of my factory clips were in fact broken. The little white ones though, I'm not sure if they're going to be very much help. They might actually be hurting this installation because I got a little bit too much glue on the window frame. These corners are held in with the long pieces. There's actually no clips or anything holding them in. And the little rubber thing that's on the surround for that is ruined, and I can't do anything about it. So however those turn out is how they're gonna turn out. There's no fixing it. Alright, so I think I've figured this out. It is quite time consuming, but it's a matter of getting each clip lined up with each tab. Get them started to where it's just resting on there. All the way around the entire window. And you have to get the bottom and the top started at the same time, because I'm pretty sure if you don't, you're not gonna. I put that one clip on there backward. Make sure your clips are facing the right way too. That might help. Again, if you get it all lined up, you maybe just walk it around. It's almost like that upper trim piece is too small. There's not very much wiggle room from side to side because it almost seems short if you pull it one way or the other. Yeah, the corners fit like crap, but again, there's nothing I can do about it because the rubber thing on the outside's like, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be rubber, but it's slowly turned into a really hard plastic. It's $150 windshield is not it's not 100% right. I guess you can't expect much. Got a gap over here, no gap all the way across, and a gap on the corner. I don't know how that happens. I feel like that's gonna come off in the wind almost. It's like the clip doesn't get sucked down in there far enough. I would say, even with the fitment issues that I'm having right now, which I will figure out, I just gotta come up with something to, I don't know, fill the gap or replace that little tiny itty bitty piece of rubber plastic stuff that goes around the edge. That looks pretty good. I'm liking that. I feel like we actually did something to the Mazda. It wasn't a lot. Little victories. Another thing off the list, though. I'm kind of thinking it is what it is, and this might just get a nice little urethane seam in here, and if the windshield ever has to be replaced, I'll figure it out after that. I am not sure how to fix that otherwise. It's like a mixture of the glass being off and this being tweaked or something. I don't know. I think the sun is around the back of the garage enough to where we can go cut some stuff up and then probably call it quits, because this video is getting really long and I need to mow the grass. I could stop thinking about it. All I needed to do was push it really hard, and I got it to click in there further. This is now flush. So it was my fault. I just don't know what I'm doing. Well, it's already way past the time that I'm normally inside on a Sunday. But we got progress. Got a big old hole, and you can see them cross members that are gonna have to be removed, and then gonna have to come up with something else to brace it all back in, but it's like 7:30, so I'm gonna go inside, edit all of this, come back out, mow the grass, and I'll see y'all next Sunday. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to do all the normal YouTubey things.